From the dawn of man, indigenous people from every corner of the globe have spoken of things that have now been discounted as myth or legend. Things they saw, lived alongside by, were looked upon as deities or worshipped by gods. Things that present-day man refer to as entities, spirits, demons, cryptid creatures, extraterrestrials, and much more. But sadly, modern man, science and society has discounted what our ancestors spoke of as legend and myths. But there are those of us that know what the ancient ones spoke of is the truth. Those of us who are obsessed with finding out the truth. This search for answers brings us into the world of the unknown and unexplained. It brings us on the trail, in search of living legends. Please join us tonight in another part of our journey to find these answers and bring the truth out into the light. Welcome and thank you for listening.
Welcome, everyone, to another edition of On the Trail in Search of Living Legends. This is going to be Season 7, Episode 7.
Oh, my
God. Flying
Season
by.
7 already. Wow.
Yep. And it is 3/9/2025. I stole it from you tonight, Nick.
Today's the night.
Tonight, we've got an awesome guest for you, a guy I consider a friend. Great guy, knows his stuff, and he's got some really cool info for us tonight. Nick?
Well, as you can see from the legend over there, they call him Bigfoot Michigan Rob. He's been around for quite a while. He's done quite a few things. He's a media presence, big personality out there. Rob has 2 books on Amazon. So if you guys want to go searching for it, that'd be great. It's book 1 and book 2, True Cryptid Encounters, Rob? Is that
Yes, that's correct. Yep.
And Rob also has 2 shows, which are really great. You know, when I'm up late at night, I pop them on.
Awesome shows, yeah.
It's always great to listen to good stuff late at night when you're up late.
Yep.
You know, he's one of those few researchers and investigators that actually have seen a Bigfoot and more, which we'll get into later. I hope Rob will do this for us. And you know, my God, he just runs the gamut out there. He's in the paranormal and UFO experience, just everything out there, and he's got quite a few different media platforms and podcasts. So, Rob, are you on YouTube?
Yeah, that's actually my main social media. Bigfoot, simply Bigfoot Michigan Rob on YouTube.
Yep.
Yeah, and I started that about 3 years ago. So yeah.
So people, I mean, really, it's a great time.
Thank you.
You really want to listen to Rob when he's out there, you know, in the media, and hit him up even for the back, the back ones that he has done on YouTube.
Yes.
You know, any back shows. So let's get into it, Jay.
Yeah. Okay. Rob, now, couple quick questions before we get into your encounter. What got you into cryptozoology originally?
Well, I will tell you this. Starting out as a young kid, I had my first experience with a UFO about 5 or 6. My mother showed me. We're getting us ready for school, and she saw something like 500 feet up in the sky, and sure enough, you guys, me and my brother, we go outside, look in the back, and there's a UFO. And I call it a flying saucer back then, because that was during the days when I used to watch Lost in Space.
Yeah.
And I must tell you that this resembled the craft on the television show. I mean, as a young kid.
Yeah.
And the funny thing about this, and then it darted up into the sky and it vanished. And my mom ended up calling my dad at work. Oh, she's all excited, Bob, you know. And he's like, you can't be calling me for this off the assembly line. Because, you know, back in the day, and this was like in the early 70s, and I think it was, 5 or 6, and you just don't call your husband. There's no cell phones back then.
Right.
She's called his foreman, and he thought that something happened to me and my brother or her. you don't call me with UFO stuff, man. When I'm
Right.
I mean,
Hey,
what am I
boss,
supposed
my wife just
Yeah.
saw a UFO.
Hey,
So,
yeah, what am I supposed to tell the
thank
boss?
you.
But wi and again, I'm not gonna get into that story in depth, but I will say this, that next evening, me and my brother were doing our homework in our bedroom. My dad got home from work. They're watching the local news, and my mom yells into the bedroom, "Robbie, Davy, you gotta come out here." And they actually on the news did a little tongue-in-cheek news report on how the people in our area saw UFO because I guess 300, 400 people called in
Oh,
Wow.
and seen that.
now, Rob,
Wow.
this was in Michigan.
Michigan, yes.
Yeah.
It was like right where I live, and my dad's like, "Holy crap, Pam!" My mom's name, and you did see something. I guess they're reporting it, and but as you guys know, as I recall from a child, you know how the newscasters where they're kind of grinning, smirking,
Oh
Yeah,
you
yeah.
yeah.
so. And then throughout my life, I've had ghost encounters in my lifetime and shadow people, and I always will say though that I was always interested in monsters. My father brought me and my brother up on Bela Lugosi,
Oh, yeah.
Dracula,
Yeah.
Lon Chaney Jr., the Wolfman, Boris Karloff, Frankenstein, those old classic black and whites.
Right.
Yeah.
So as a young kid, I was always into the monsters. And as I got a little bit older, I came across In Search of Leonard Nimoy,
Yep.
and I always watched that. Then one show in particular, he talked about Bigfoot, and they had snippets of the Patterson Gimlin film.
Mm.
And then I'm like, wow, Bigfoot, eh? So of course, as a young kid, I was in grade school. So the next morning, I went to the library trying to find books on Bigfoot. And of course, back in the 70s, there's no books in a middle school library, about
Right.
Bigfoot.
Right.
So that was that. Then I happened upon the Patterson Gimlin film a little later on in life. I've always believed that Bigfoot existed in my mind because I said, why not? Just like why not UFOs? Why not aliens? We're not
Right.
the only living, you know, species on the planet. There's
Right.
all these things. So I always was open minded to this. So yeah, that's kind of how I was always intrigued. And then throughout life, you grow up, you get married, and throughout my life, again, I've had paranormal experiences that I kind of brushed off to the side, believed in them, but hey, I had other things going on in life. I didn't get involved with research or hell, back when I was growing up, there, we barely had the internet, right? It was like
Right.
I discovered YouTube, like in the late 2015s. I didn't even know that was anything. I used it to watch rock videos or concerts
Right.
back from the day.
Yeah.
That's what I used YouTube for. I didn't know
Yeah.
there was podcasts. There wasn't, it wasn't really, it was prevalent, I guess, in 2015 or whatever. But you know, I just thought YouTube, hey, look up how to fix a flat, bake a cake, and watch, concerts. That's what I did.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that was my that was that was me growing up with social media.
Right.
Toward the end.
Right. Now, what year you had? I know you had the one. You had a pretty terrifying encounter.
Yeah.
Um, was that your first experience?
Well, my first experience with see, I will call it my Bigfoot encounter. Now, again, guys, prior to this, I saw the UFO as a kid. I saw ghosts as a kid. When I even got, and then as I got older, I seen the same ghost at my marital home.
Oh
In the
wow.
marital home, I saw shadow people. My wife and I had collected trinkets and objects from thrift shops, antique shops, and we collected them and we had put them inside in a room. And one day when we decided we built this little room for them, then all of a sudden this strangeness invaded our home, which I later found out was haunted objects that we had collected.
Ah.
And that's another story. I can go on for hours about my ghost encounters. Saw
Yeah.
ghosts at my bar. However, the thing that brought this to a climax throughout my entire life was in the summer of 2018. It was actually, I'll never forget this date, much like your own birth date. It was June 15th of 2018, where I call it a Bigfoot encounter. And even today, you guys, I say that because I don't have any other verbiage for it. Was it a
Right.
Bigfoot? To this day, I don't know. And you'll find out, and you guys can give me your thoughts when I tell you the experience.
Mhm.
So I was dating this girl, Cindy, for about a year and a half, 2 years. And I've always been an avid outdoorsman. I never really hunted much, but I was big into fishing, hiking, exploring the wilderness, the woods. Cindy, on the other hand, she was more of your typical girly girl, like the little shops, this, that, and the other, which is no problem. But I said, honey, you gotta start, you know, I gotta introduce you to some of the things I like.
Right.
So I said, here's what we're doing. I planned a trip for us. We're going to go up to Cadillac, Michigan, which is in Wexford County, Michigan. And at the time, I did not know that this is our alleged capital of Dogman. And there's been throughout the
Wow.
years other alleged Bigfoot encounters, along with, of course, Dogman. Back then, I don't know this. I'm not a researcher. I'm not into any of this. I'm just in the back of my head. I know all about it, right? So she was like, okay. So I rented a little cabin on Lake Cadillac, and I rented a small little fishing skiff. Not a very big boat. If it sat 8 inches out of the top of the water, that's all it was. It was maybe 8 foot long, just something to tool around the lake. Now, I didn't realize how expansive Lake Cadillac was. It's huge. If you go on Google Maps or even the map of Michigan, you'll see it plotted there, and it's sizable. It's about 300 miles from where I live right now, 250 miles. And it's also connected to another very big lake called Lake Mitchell. Now, the thing about this is it's all surrounded by the Manistee National Forest.
Okay.
There's also the Huron National Forest, which they're the same, and that's the story with the indigenous, how it got broken up and such. But it literally, this forest, you guys, in the northern part of Michigan, not the upper peninsula, we're still prior to the bridge, the Mackinac Bridge,
Right.
but it goes from Lake Michigan on the west all the way to Lake Huron on the east. So it encompasses the whole top quadrant of my state. There's been rumors about parts of it being haunted, tainted land, all these things. And again, I don't know this prior to going on this fishing trip. So anyway, that's a little background on that, which comes into play a
Yeah.
little later. So we get to, it's about the middle of the week because I think it's around a Tuesday or Wednesday, and it's in the afternoon. It's already a beautiful early afternoon. We get there in the morning. It's early afternoon, nice sunny day. Of course, I want to get on the lake fishing at about 5 or 6 in the morning. Well, with Cindy, we got on the water at 10 a.m. I'm like, okay, whatever. We're not gonna, okay. So we get the little skiff and we go about traversing about the lake. Now, Lake Cadillac is beautiful. It's surrounded by a lot of beautiful homes, some small residential family owned businesses, shops, and again, the forest does surround it, and very big lake. And so we get out on the water, and we're about an hour in or so, and we don't even have, we don't catch a fish, don't even get a nibble, you guys. And there's really nobody on the lake. It's the middle of the week. Everyone's, it's not vacation time. It's June 15th.
Yeah.
So she's bored. I said, let's just explore around the Lake Cadillac. So he's driving a little skiff around the lake. And then I came upon this canal, which led to the adjoining lake, which is Lake Mitchell. Now, Lake Mitchell, just as expansive as Lake Cadillac, the difference being very few, less, there are less homes. There's not really any businesses. There might be a little park here and there, rest area, but it's more secluded. and the expanse of the forest is just sitting right there. It's nothing but
Yeah.
water and forest. So I traverse about. I get to maybe the southwest corner of the lake. It's in like a bay, if you will. And I said, "This is a nice spot, Cindy. I'm gonna put the little trolling motor on, a slow troll, and we're just gonna troll. And we're about 90 feet out from shore. And then I'm going about realigning the tackle. I'm putting new bait on, changing the lures, and Cindy's sitting there looking into the beautiful scenery. And what I must say, and this is kind of important for this encounter story,
Mm-hmm.
it was a beautiful blue sky. The orange sun is right there. The backdrop of the forest, emerald green, lush forest, beautiful emerald green water, very beautiful. The colors are vivid. Again, that's important to mention.
Okay.
So I'm about putting the tackle together, and Cindy's, kind of standing up, looking outwards, and then she says to me, "Hey, Rob," she goes, "I think somebody's throwing rocks at the boat."
Mm.
I'm like, "What? Throwing rocks?" So I look up, look to the shoreline. We're not far, like 90 feet, as I said. I said, "Cindy, there's nobody on the shoreline." I said, "Hang on a minute. Let me get back to what I'm doing here." Okay, whatever, she says. I go back, I look down. Once again, I go back attending the tackle. Cindy more emphatically, "Rob, someone's throwing rocks at the boat. I just seen one land not 5 feet in front of the boat." I'm like,
Wow.
"What, a rock, a pebble?" She goes, "No, I don't. I think it's a rock. I don't know this, that, and the other." So I again look towards the shoreline. Nothing's there. In fact, I really look hard at the shoreline, and I said, the forest drops right into the lake. There's really not even a beach or a coastline. It's just boom. It's like you fall off out of the tree, you're in the water.
All right.
Now there was a little area that was kind of maybe you could put up a two-man tent there. I mean, it wasn't very big. So I did notice that. But I'm like, "Look," I said, "Look, honey, let me get back to what I'm doing, then I'll join you and I'll look on with you. But please let me, get these lures on because trying to get that filament in the lures." And she's,
Yeah.
yeah, it's a. She goes, "Okay, fine." So now, for whatever the reason, I just happen to, maybe rub my eye and I kind of look up and I see some object fall, literally falling out of the sky. My first thought, it was a bird, right? And then all of a sudden, as it comes closer to the top, closer down, falling, it's a rock, and it's maybe the size of a baseball, and it kerplop right about 4 feet, 5 feet from the boat, makes a little splash. So I go to turn to Cindy to kind of apologize. I recognize this as being a rock of some sort.
All right.
Now Cindy's standing up. June 15th, she was a sun goddess. She already had a ripping golden brown tan from head to toe. And I look at her, and all the colors seem to be just taken out. She looked pale,
Oh, wow.
and she's asphyxiated, looking right at the shoreline. She's not saying a word to me, not looking at me. And I'm thinking, what in the hell? And I look towards the shore, and standing out in that one little opening that I described earlier,
Mm-hmm.
there's this tall creature. It had to have been 9 feet tall. Okay, I 8, 9 feet tall. I always say 8 to 9 feet tall, and it's covered from head to toe in beautiful reddish brown flowing hair,
Yeah.
and it has his arms kind of on the side. And I'm nudging the vessel a little closer. I'm inside of 90 feet, but I get a nice view of this thing. A big head. And what I noticed outside of the beautiful hair, it had a great chest. It wasn't covered in much hair, but that face, no hair on the face, but it was a gray, wrinkled looking face, like and as I looked more intently at this, it looked almost like a human being, but a human being that was very deformed. It reminded me of an older man or woman that had a stroke. It's like the
Mm.
right side of the face was kind of drooping down. The eyes were even offset, and the eyes were kind of opaque. Maybe
Mm.
just not white like ours, but kind of, and they were big. They were big eyes, and I can see this face. It looked like a human, you guys, but kind of messed up human, right? With some
Yeah.
sort of something going on. And I'm kind of transfixed on this, and then all of a sudden, this creature, he kind of rolls his shoulders back, and the head kind of drops down between the shoulders, and the jawline, it opens its mouth, and its jaw distends down 5, 6 inches from the top of the mouth.
Wow.
Opens up its mouth, and it was a huge and gaping mouth. I swear you could fit two softballs inside it. At least that's what I'm
Wow.
thinking. And it had a set of teeth. It was just two fang-like teeth up top,
Oh,
and on the
wow.
bottom like two incisors. But here's the thing: as I see this, it starts to roar, yell, and scream all in unison, and it projects this vibration, like I call it a sonic boom, and I can
Right.
feel it kind of hit me, and I take a stumble back, and Cindy. But here's the thing, though. As I made mention about that grayish, odd-looking, deformed face, the stroke-looking face, the gray face, it got taut. It got tight.
Mm.
It almost turned like a purple, and those white eyes rolled over black,
Mm.
exposing those fangs, and this
Yeah.
roar was menacing and penetrating. As I mentioned, I hear this force hit me, this energy, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
Again, you guys have to remember back in 2018, I know nothing about infrasound, nothing really about creatures or cryptids. Cindy, all of 5'1", about 109 pounds, gets flipped off the boat into the water.
Oh, wow.
While this sonic blast, this yell, roar, and scream is projected at us.
Right.
So now I know, I'm panicking. Now she can swim, but I'm panicking. Here's the thing. I mentioned the reason I tell the description of the beautiful day and the colors I saw. I know now. I now know I must get Cindy. So I turn to the right to get her. But now, number one, I'm paralyzed. I can't move. Number two, my vision gets distorted. The beautiful colors went away. It almost My vision looked like I was looking through a filter. It was very grainy, almost like a black and white vision.
Right.
And again, I can't move. And it feels like time stood still.
Mm-hmm.
So in my head, I'm like, Rob, you gotta get out. You gotta snap out of this. Whatever it is you're experiencing, right? So try to start shaking my head. Then all of a sudden, I broke free of whatever I was under. Then now my cognizance came back, and now I could see more clearly. The colors came back, and I'm now back in, as I say, real life. And
Right.
I go to get Cindy, help her she's trying to get in the boat, and I assist her into the boat. Now I'm kind of petrified, and I look to the shore, and I'm even doubly scared because I don't see this creature or whatever it is standing there. It's gone.
Mm.
And my first immediate thought was, is this thing swimming after us?
Right.
Wants to get us, this, that, and the other.
Yeah.
So I just immediately whipped the boat around, opened up that little Minn Kota trolling motor, as fast as that can go, and just started cranking across Lake Mitchell. Got up and went through that canal, and I beelined it toward on Lake Cadillac towards the area where I, launched the vessel, and then finally get up, dock it, get Cindy up. I think we might have had a beach towel or something. And I kind of wrapped that around her, and she's freezing cold. It's 82 degrees out, no wind outside of the wind from the traveling on the boat. I immediately look for someplace where we can go sit down. We're maybe a half block up. I see this small little quaint little bar restaurant nestled down the corner. I'm like, cool, we got to get inside here. Open the door, I go in. And again, it's middle of the week. There's not many people in there, thankfully. I look to the right, and there's a couple on the end of the bar doing whatever, pay no attention to us as we come in. And I look to the left, and there's nobody really there either. So I found this booth in the far back left corner of the bar as I entered. Cindy and I both sit down, looking at each other, not saying a word. The waitress comes up and says to Cindy first, "What you having?" Now, Cindy, I've been dating her for 2 years. Now, I owned a bar as well at this time. Okay. However, Cindy was not a drinker. I've never seen her drink a drop of anything, even coming into the bar to see me. Never. She orders a bottle of Bud Light and a shot of Jack Daniels. I'm like, man, yeah, this really got to her.
Yeah.
And I'm sure, and hey, you guys, me as well. I'm in shock. I still
Sure.
can't
Sure.
process this. So the waitress looks at me and I says, "I'll have the same, but make mine a double." So
So, Rob, I understand that section
Eh,
of Michigan, they have giant gorillas over there. Is that true?
yeah, right.
I'm
You're
just
all
being
right.
facetious.
I know you. Yeah, they're all. It's all an April world, Nick. So
Wow.
so yeah, so waitress comes back and puts that shot glass in front of Cindy, the bottle of Bud Light. I get my 2 shots and 2 Bud Lights. Cindy takes that shot of whiskey. She throws it back like she's been drinking for 20 years. Then she picks up that cold bottle of beer, chokes it back.
yeah.
Probably drank half of it. I'm like, damn, I do the same. So now it's finally when we start talking, and Cindy says, "Hey, honey, what do you think that was?" And I retort back, "I don't know." I throw it back in her court. I go, "I don't know. What do you think it was?" Well, then she goes, "You know, I thought that maybe it's possibly that Bigfoot creature."
Mm,
Now, I must say that Cindy and I, throughout our time dating, never once in our lifetime spoke about Bigfoot. We never watched anything on Bigfoot. Not that there was much out there back in 2018. I don't know if there was
right.
or wasn't. And I said back there, I had a little indication about it from my previous youth, right? Just following Leonard Nimoy and stuff like that. And I'm like, yeah, I think maybe it was. Still unsure. And she says, "Well, what should we do? Should we call the sheriff, local police, the DNR?" And I'm like, "No, absolutely not.
No way.
I am not, we're not doing that. We'll get laughed out of town, this, that, and the other." Because you got to remember, I don't even know what the hell it was. It just seems
Right.
so unreal, right? So
Right.
we're like, yeah, but it kind of wrecked that weekend. I mean, we went back into town a little bit, shopped around, and I tell you what, you guys, we both wanted to get back home and start looking this stuff up. So we kind of got out of town. We went home. Um, it's also important to tell you for another reason in a minute. Cindy and I didn't live together. She lived with her mom and stuff. Her mom despised me because I owned a bar. She's one of those. Rob owns a bar, therefore he's the devil.
You the devil, yeah.
That was her mom. Hated me, really, literally. And so anyway, though, we spent a lot of time together, obviously. So we're at my house and we start going online. typing in Bigfoot, typing in demons. Because I got to tell you, the thing metamorphosized. It looked from that crazy looking creature into what I say today was a demon. Today, I don't
Yeah.
think it was, but
Right.
that's and Sibylla Irwin did renditions of my encounter, which I
Oh,
got to
okay.
send to you, which are like
Yeah.
93% accurate from what I saw and what it turned into.
Nice.
So, so anyway, we're doing all this, and like as I mentioned earlier, I brought up the social media because I didn't use YouTube for anything, but then I started typing in on YouTube search Bigfoot. So there were videos popped up, podcasts popped up, and there was nothing that really appealed to me. Nothing, certainly nothing that I saw came made any sense to me. So it's kind of frustrating, and I didn't know who to call or reach out to or anything like that. So she and I just went on for quite a while, just doing our own personal investigation into this. So, as I mentioned, this encounter took place June 15th of 2018. And as I mentioned, Cindy lived with her mom, who hates me, never called me on the phone or anything. So one morning, the morning of August 15th of 2018, exactly 2 months the day of the sighting, her mom, the phone rings and it's her mom.
Mm,
And I can't really recognize her, the voice, anyways.
right.
This is so and so, Cindy's mom. She passed away this morning.
Oh man.
Oh,
I'm like, what the hell are you talking about?
Wait, Cindy did?
Cindy, my girlfriend, that I had
Oh
oh,
my
the
God,
encounter
Rob.
with, who I had the encounter with.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, man. That's
God.
awful.
And I'm like, what? Like, what were you telling me? Apparently, she had a heart attack, she tells me, her mom. And I said, I don't believe that for a minute. I've never seen Cindy drink, smoke, or do anything since I've been dating her. Heart attack. She's 43 years old.
All right.
So, and her mom says, oh, by the way, I don't like you. You're not invited. I do not, you'll be turned away at the funeral.
Oh,
Ooh.
Yeah, this, that, and the other. And I'm like, well, give me the attending doctor. I don't believe that. I need to hear these. I want the autopsy report. Oh, you're not getting that. Because for something, I started thinking now, she didn't have a heart attack. My mind, you know where my mind went, you guys? To the encounter.
yeah.
You know how I lost cognizance and everything
Yeah.
was weird. And
Yep.
she got hit with that. So I'm thinking
Yep.
this creature, whatever it was, had a hand in this. This is what I'm thinking now.
Sure.
And so of course I'm distraught. I can't go. I went to the funeral, and yeah, all these guys are out there. Oh yeah, they'd have kicked my ass if they did not let me in. And I don't have closure on that for one, even till this day, because I don't know what happened.
Yeah.
Because her mom died like 2 years later.
Right.
So yeah. So, but anyway, going back to this, I call one of my hunting buddies. I say, hey, man, we're going. We're looking for something. And I wanted to go in there fully armed and just blow up the forest.
All right.
I did. That was my mind. I went nuts.
Sure.
Then I went dark. As I told you guys, I owned a bar.
Yeah.
I got very depressed, dark, and very angry and very sad all at the same time. I told my bar manager, the cook actually, who I started the business up with. I've known him for a long time. I said, look, man, here are the keys to the building. I'm taking some time off. Don't know when I'm coming back. Just please don't rip me off. Put the money in the bank like always.
Yeah.
And I'll get back with you when I can. Boss man, what's going on? Why? What's up? You look terrible. I go, I am terrible. But I can't tell you right now because I just got to figure it out for myself before I tell anybody.
Sure.
So then I locked myself up like in my house doing all this research online. And so I'm calling all these people, trying to find somebody that will listen, you know. half these people I found on YouTube on the internet were just nothing, nobody I felt comfortable with. Until one day I was watching on YouTube Kerry Arnold, Bigfoot Odyssey, his Bigfoot encounter.
Yeah.
And he has one of his original his original encounter, how he goes, he's out in the woods, tells a story. I said, I can relate to this guy. And he even left his phone number on the YouTube channel, and I called him. And I didn't think he'd pick up, and he didn't. But within 20 minutes, he called me back, and I told the guy my story, and he listened to me. We talked for 5 hours. Rob, you're not
Wow.
going crazy. Rob, you had an experience. I went on, spoke to a few other people. Then they had suggested that maybe I should make a video. You know, it's good therapy, this, that, and the other. I said, man, I don't know about you. So how do you even make a video? I'm done with all this, right? So I did some video on YouTube, and then all of a sudden I got a call from a guy named Wes Germer from Sasquatch Chronicles.
Yes. Yeah. No, Wes very well.
And "Hey, Rob, man, I heard that video. I saw that video you made. You want to share your encounter on my show?" I'm
Hmm.
like, and I at this time I was more acclimated with a lot of the more in my mind anyway, the more people that I could kind of trust, and thought they were credible
Yeah.
anyways. I said, "Boy, I don't know about all that. I can barely tell it without crying." "Don't worry, man. I'll
Right.
I'll walk you through it." So that was the first time I told it publicly outside of my personal video, but I'm a nobody. Wes, that's a big show, right? And I he was so cool because I must have broke down, cried for the first time 3 or 4 times during the entire interview, but he is a tape like this, so he edited it very nicely.
Yep.
And after I did that, I really felt good I felt good. It was like a burden off my chest, especially when I listened back to it when he aired it, right? And then that's kind of then I hooked up with, text, guys know text from front porch and
Yeah, Tex.
yeah, and I decided I called Tex. I had known Tex. I found out about Tex through some other show he was a co-host on. We kind of became friends as I was in my search for Bigfoot or the answers.
Hmm.
And that's kind of how the Bigfoot Michigan Rob channel evolved because, and I didn't want to do it, not necessarily for fame and fortune, but
Right.
because I I will never forget the dark days that I suffered through and how nobody would help me
Mm.
and how I was felt belittled and judged and didn't want,
Yep.
you know. So I
Yep.
said, Rob, after I finally got through this, I'm not over the death of Cindy. That's still a mystery. I'm over the Bigfoot experience. This
Sure.
Bigfoot experience was great if she didn't
Right.
pass on,
Right.
but the loneliness I felt for so long time was really the reason why I did the channel to help other
Yeah.
people go
Yep.
through what I went through in a friendly, non-threatening environment on the show, right? And that's
Right.
even why I wrote the 2 books, is both the books that I've written over the last 2.5 years are emails and accounts that people have actually sent to me, and they've said that, "Yeah, if you wanna publish this," I talked to most of them, not all, but the ones in the book I spoke with, "I'm gonna do a book, I'm not gonna give you no money," but they all wanted to be
Right.
in anonymity. I mean, all the names in the book are made up, but
Yeah.
they're real people.
Right.
So for me today, you guys, is I don't care. I'm not here to solve the mystery of Bigfoot. I am no longer a believer. I'm a knower, and that's
Yep.
all that matters to me. So
Yep.
I just like to spread the word and help others. That's my number one goal. So that's how I got to where I'm at today with the podcast, the channel, and my true dedication into helping other people and learning more about the mysteries. It's
Yep.
evolved into not from just Bigfoot, but now to the Dogman, the
Hmm.
Mothman, the paranormal, this, that, the other. Because today I find out today, you guys, all these things, I don't care what you're into, aliens, UFOs, cryptids, to me, they're all connected on some level.
Yep, I agree. Yep.
And that's my experience, my true cryptid encounter, man, that set me on this path. And I tell you what, I love doing what I do today. I really do. Whether I'm sharing with folks like you or having folks like you share with me on my show, because
Yeah,
that's where it's at for me. And for me, it's therapy. And for me, it's
sure.
in an odd way. I think what happened to me was maybe a second calling for me because I had sold
Okay.
the bar right before COVID. And then the dude I sold it to, the bar went out of business, along with 3,200 other Michigan restaurants and bars, by the way,
Oh my God.
which was kind of lucky, I guess, on my part. I didn't foresee that. I just Thanksgiving Day, I signed papers, and then 2020, and sold it to some guy. 6 months later, my poor business went under.
Yeah.
I mean, I already had
Oh,
money, but I still felt bad for the guy.
yeah, sure,
You know.
sure.
Now, Rob, I've spoken about infrasound, mind speak on many different programs. You think that that infrasound may have been the cause of your girlfriend's passing? It may have damaged her heart muscles.
I've thought about that immensely, man, intently, and I will tell you this: I I don't discount that,
Hmm.
although not being an expert in anything. Do you think that it could possibly do that? Because I was also looking up things, ultrasound as well. Now I know that
Right.
Okay.
I don't know if they produce ultrasound cryptids.
It's different.
It's a different,
Yeah,
so
it's a different wavelength. I when I speak about it, I've had it happen to me, not from a Bigfoot,
okay,
but from a 700-pound tiger at the National Zoo in Washington, D.C.
okay,
You go near their cage, they're at the bars there, and you invade their space, and they're going to hit you with a roar.
Yep.
That is infrasound. That's their
right,
way of shooting infrasound at you. And I'm going to tell you, a lot of people, when that tiger roared, whether they were paying attention to the tiger or not, went back several feet.
okay,
I'm standing there and I could feel it hitting my chest, and the hair stood up on the back of my neck
yeah,
here
Yeah.
because it's like, holy crow, that thing was, there was some substance to it. That's why I'm wondering
Yeah.
if you ever did any more research into it to see
right. Actually, I have, and I think that might
possibly.
be a cause. I just don't know how much of that has to be output. Because I talked to several people, Nick, that were here with infrasound. They always experience nauseousness,
Yes.
maybe
I've
a
been
little,
hit.
they
This
might
guy
lose some
right here.
cognizance.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I've been hit with the
maybe.
equilibrium. Equilibrium goes
Yeah, you
off.
can't walk,
Vomiting.
lose your balance.
Yep. Yep.
Several people have had that. Now, with what happened with Cindy and even myself, with me, everything went black and white, slow motion,
Right.
can't
Yeah.
move. Cindy didn't experience that because I think she might have, but when she fell into the water, I think that shock of the water initially got her out of it, and she
Right.
didn't get sick.
Right.
So but I know we were in shock for a great deal traveling back to the bar area. So Nick, that's always been the mystery to me because not a very big woman, 109 pounds, as I said. And at the day,
Right.
I was 200 pounds, and I didn't feel any in my body. I go to an annual physical every year, I'm fine. But yes, Nick, I can't answer that question, but I think even today, maybe something had, maybe that's one of the reasons. The young woman was a health nut.
Yeah.
Right.
And I get it, people pass away for uncanny reasons, but come on,
Mhm.
you know.
Yeah.
Well, like
Yeah.
Jay, for instance, he can tell you himself. I mean, he's been knocked down by infrasound from
Yeah.
Sasquatch, and I mean, Jay's no pushover. The guy's
Yeah.
200 plus pounds.
No, he's a MMA guy too, man. He's in shape,
Yeah.
probably.
Yeah, I saw this. I was scoping the field, and I saw a brown flash run behind me. And as soon as it was by, man, my stomach started to turn. My equilibrium was off. I hit my knees, started throwing up. So yeah, and I truly believe that's what it was. I truly believe it was infrasound. I think I might have interrupted a
Yeah.
hunt. You know what I mean? And they were okay. Well, you want to interrupt our hunt? We got something for you. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, you talk about interrupting the hunt. That was in 2018. I think when I really started getting involved more, really, it took maybe until right around 2019 before I was more vocal and reaching out to people.
Right.
And many people had suggested in the field, researchers or what have you, have
Hmm.
suggested that maybe we came across the Bigfoot in a family and it was protecting them,
Yeah,
you
Right.
know.
it's a possibility. Sure.
Maybe there's little ones in the water
Yeah.
fishing, there's all sorts of ways that you can take this. And
Yeah.
somebody even suggested to me, and I even went to the depths, and I'm not a big, well, I'm open-minded. I'll leave it at that. I'm not going to get into the psychics, but I talked to 4 different
Right.
psychic mediums, 2 recommended by people I respect, and 2 I found on my own. All 4 of them, all different evaluations when I spoke with them.
Oh wow.
Although, I will tell you this, talking about that mind speak, Nick. So, I
Hmm.
will tell you this. I had a guest on my show about 2 years ago. Whether they knew about my encounter story or not, I don't know. Most people by that time have heard it. And she was on my show. I'm interviewing her on MindSpeak, this, that, and the other. And there was like Bigfoot on her property. And she
Yep.
happens to live in Michigan and North Carolina. And North Carolina has 2 in between homes, right? So
Yep.
out of nowhere, during about an hour into the show, you guys, she says, Denali says he meant you no harm. Out of the blue during the show. And I'm like, what? Okay, excuse, you talking to me?
Right.
Was
Right.
GMC truck, Alaska? What? Denali means me no harm. I didn't put it together. She goes, yeah, he's communicating with me right now, and he's been trying to get in touch with you, but you're not letting him in. I go, what are you talking about? She goes, that's the name of your Sasquatch. Met you and Cindy no harm. Said children were in the area. Now, you guys, she's telling me this. Now, I'm going to tell you, all of a sudden, my red flags go up, my defenses go up, and I'm like, and I'm not going to call this person out on my show live on YouTube,
Right.
Right.
but I'm trying to gather what to respond with. And I just told you guys my encounter. I tell it the same way every time for the last
Yeah.
since 2018. Never deviate from it, never. And this woman could have possibly heard it. Something, did she hear this story? And she's just giving me a line here. And again, as I mentioned, I always tell it the same. And she said to me, which floored me, yeah, he came from around out of a portal from around
Hmm.
the red barn.
Oh wow.
Did I mention red barn in my story?
I don't think so.
I didn't. I know I didn't.
Yeah.
And guess what? There was a red barn about 30 feet from the emergence of this Sasquatch.
Wow.
Ooh, that's something.
Wow.
So it was a little dilapidated red barn. I don't think anybody used it, but it was red. It was a barn. Not a big barn, but it was a red building.
Yeah.
And this woman could not have known that. I didn't tell my
No.
closest of friend. That to me is insignificant in my story. Who cares about the red barn? I didn't tell you guys about the park that was, 1,000 feet up the stream, right? That was there too. And the house on the corner, on the pink house that was back in the onset. Has nothing to do with the story. So she
Right.
picked that out. And then when she mentioned it came out of a portal. So as I mentioned you guys that I talked about of the 4 psychics mediums I spoke with, one had told me that north of there in the haunted Manistee National Forest, that there was a Bigfoot in northern Michigan, north of where I was, but in the Upper Peninsula, that was
Hmm.
traversing about mining shafts underneath the ground, tunnels, and lost its way, got into a portal, and came out and presented itself in front of me. And it did not know this Bigfoot creature, or whatever it was, didn't know what had happened,
Right.
which is why it. And then it's seen. I'm the first person in the city that he's seen, and got all crazy. So, I mean, if I believe that, I'm open for speculation, but it kind of matches up with this other woman told me, you guys, again, it's a mystery to me. I'll never know the answers until I'm, you know, see my
Yeah.
maker, I guess. But the gist of the entire story is the biggest mystery for me is how in the hell did Cindy die?
Yeah. That boggles my mind.
It bugs me.
Yeah.
She could have had a weakness in her heart
Yeah, she could have.
that maybe got it probably got brought
Intensified.
about by that, and that's a very distinct possibility.
Yeah, I've heard that, and I believe that's a possibility.
Yeah.
But I can't. If I could just access those records somehow, I even called a
Yeah,
lawyer. You can't do that. I wasn't kin. I wasn't married. We weren't brother. We weren't sister.
no,
Right.
So they don't. They
they
don't.
give it to you.
They don't give it to nobody.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
Too bad she didn't have brothers or sisters that you could have asked for once her mother went, passed on.
Yeah, I wish I tried looking up relatives. Didn't know many of her relatives. Did have a brother, lives in Florida, who didn't even attend her funeral. So I mean,
Oh my God.
Yeah,
oh come on, So
yeah. Just to try to solve a mystery that would have been good, but
that would have been good.
Yeah. Sure.
So anyway, it came up to that time where I got to do my little thing I told you about because I could feel it churning in my kidney. I'll be right back. If you
Yep.
guys want.
okay.
Yep. Take your time.
I'll be right back, Jay.
Okay. Just bear with us a second, guys. Just waiting on my guest and my co-host. They will be right back. I hope everyone's doing well out there tonight. I'll say this while they're gone. If anyone wants to come on the show, you can reach Nick and I on Messenger. Messenger email. My email is onthetrail.jf@gmail.com. If you wish, we can keep everything confidential. Your name, so on and so forth. We are scheduling right now for the next couple months. So yeah, we could get someone to come on. Some people to come on. That'd be fantastic. Don't be afraid to reach out. You can reach us on any of the International Dogman Project groups. You can reach us on our other group on Facebook, On the Trail, Cryptid Paranormal Research. So you can get a hold of Nick or myself or
Quad
any
Coalition of Sciences. If you
Quad Coalition of Sciences. Yep. That's
remember, the Quad does cryptids, paranormal,
yep.
UFOlogy, and regular zoology.
That's right. Yep.
I'll tell you, Jay, what I was telling Bob. When I went to the National Zoo and that humongous tiger let out a roar when the crowd of people that were passing by there got too close. You
Yeah.
could actually feel it. It felt like a substantial force.
Oh, sure.
Like
Yeah.
like like it was a big 2x4 there slamming you and pushing people back.
Let
So
me ask you a question. Was it Sumatran tiger?
no, it was
Bengal?
it was a Bengal tiger.
Okay.
And it was abnormally large for its type. Let's put it that
Right.
way. Where the Siberian tiger is about 12 feet long,
Yeah.
and this Bengal was abnormally large. I mean, they had the whole history of it. If you wanted to approach the cage and read it, in which
Right.
case he's probably going to get PO'd at you anyway. And we got Bob
Without a
back.
doubt.
Hey, what's up, guys? Thanks for that.
Hey. Not a problem,
I,
brother.
I,
Not a
I know
problem.
we're running a while here, but I'd love to hit you up on your experience,
Yes.
Again,
Well,
experience.
yeah, you know what? Thanks for that. Hope you guys enjoy that. I mean, as much as today in 2025, it's an encounter that I'll never forget. It's a mystery laden experience which set me on my path,
Yeah.
and so as a result of the path, I always put out my email for people to send me their stories that I produce on the show.
Hmm.
And as I said, if I had a couple years of things already sent into me, and it's like I said, well, I think I'm gonna put an encounter book out, right?
Hmm.
And I got to tell you, because I'm also big into the dog man. Never seen one, but I've gotten plenty of accounts, and there's a lot of validation. I'm going to tell you guys this encounter that I got. I talked to this guy
Hmm.
a couple times via email and on the phone, and a lot of validation because the minute I put this video out 2 years ago, it was one of the most. It was so highly commented on from people that said this guy's legit. We know all about this park.
No, well.
When I put out the book, I got an email, like an encrypted email, and I cannot respond back because it does not allow it.
Right.
Allegedly, I mean, according to what I was reading, was people, officials from this park and government agencies
Yeah.
that threatened me. Okay.
Mm.
And I'm like, wow. So I get some immediate validation, not only from the people that followed the show that told me, yeah, we get it. And then to get this weird email. And I got two of them in the last a year, especially after the book came out, the first book in 2023. And this goes on, and I'm gonna tell where it happened. This is where this happened. This was in Potato Creek State Park in Indiana,
Mm.
Okay.
and this is a park in where you can is a nice sized park, I imagine. I don't know the acreage, but it allows folks to bring up their horses because they have horse trails.
Oh,
Right.
yeah.
As the man's telling me the story, it was him, his wife, and his son, and they had an RV. Also allowed for you could bring an RV, and there's RV parking back in the campsite, which is cool. Instead of renting a cabin, which are also available. And so the husband and wife, they get their RV, and their son trailered the horses, two horses, up to the area, and they had
Hmm.
been going there for several years. And this particular year, they and I think it was, geez, I think I remember him saying like 2015. It's in the 2000s, mid 2015, 16s. And they get to and they've been there several times. Now, I will say that the son and the dad really were Bigfoot enthusiasts. They actually would go out looking for evidence, this, that, and the other. Not researchers, but they were very big into the genre, the
Sure.
phenomenon. So they would look for, like, try to find tracks, prints, this, that,
Track.
and the other. Never came across anything, of course.
Right.
So when they got to the campsite, they thought it was very unusual because there was a really foul odor around their campsite
Mm.
where they were at. And he said, "No, Rob, it wasn't, the smell of manure. We get it. It was something differently. It was kind of pungent." So anyway, they kind of said, "Well, we'll just tough it out, and if it gets bad, we'll change sites." So they get their horses together and they go on the trail. They had two horses, so the husband and the wife were on one horse, and the son followed on another horse. And as they get into one of the trails, they're maybe a quarter mile in, and that smell was getting very much more pungent. He said he explained it as like a stale urine, but very,
Hmm.
Yeah.
intense.
Yeah.
And they even notice, and so what happens is this: they get off the horses because the son, the father, they get off the horse because they seen these unusually large increments of scat,
Mm.
not from horse, or anything like that, and they thought it was odd. So the son, I mean, very ambitious young guy, he has a sample bag. His dad, maybe this is a cryptid, this is that. And so he actually takes a piece, puts it away in his bag, this, that, and the other. Okay.
Mhm.
And then they notice these unusually large wolf like tracks
Mm.
surrounding the scat area, bigger than any wolf prints. And in fact, what's unusual about this, in this part of Indiana, there aren't wolves,
Right.
at least as far as
Right.
their recollection.
You're right.
And I looked it up, there isn't.
Right.
Just like I'm not supposed to have wolves where I live, but I know there's a couple meandering around, right? So
Same here too. Yeah, we got
yeah.
them.
So like okay, but they just could not stand the trail, the smell, and they said, "Yeah, let's just turn around, go back." And they were going to request a different location to move, right? So they get back, and the husband rides the one horse and drops it in the wife at the RV, and he goes back with his son. They take the other two horses, they collect them, and they get them up in their trailer. And then the wife comes running toward them as they're at the place where they store the horses. I guess in a horse trailer, I guess it was, or a barn for the horses they had for your animals. But they also brought their own trailer, so I don't know which they put it in. Regardless,
Right.
in fact, it was their own trailer. Oop, okay, there we go. So, but here comes the wife out, and she's kind of flailing her hands about, and you guys come quick, come quick. And they're like, what's up, honey? The husband says, and they're looking around the outside the RV, and their impressions of the same wolf-like tracks surrounding it
Mm.
was circled their RV. So the father, the husband, he immediately gets on the phone. He's going to call up front of the administration. Some young secretary, whoever answered the phone, said all the people are out. We'll come check it out in the morning. Whatever. He goes,
Yeah.
okay. By the way, we want to get out of here tomorrow morning. We also want to move our location. It's just the
Yeah.
smell is just too bad. So later that night, they try to make the best of it, the little family together, and they get out and they set a little bonfire up and they're outside and get the fire stoking. They're telling stories, making, food or whatever they're doing. And from the wood line, they hear howls of wolves. They hear howling of like wolves,
Mm.
you know. And the father and son, never really, they said, Rob, I'll tell you right now, I've never heard a live howl of a wolf in my life. They're not around where I live anywhere, but they, just like in the movies or whatever you hear, it sound like, wolves. So they got a little scared. And I said, let's just turn in for the night. Let's just talk. Let's just get out of here in the morning. If not, if we can't get another location, let's get the hell out of here.
Yeah.
So they all gather back into the RV and they all go to sleep. The howls dissipate. About 3 o'clock in the morning, they're awakened by the howls again, but they're much closer.
Mm.
So the father and the son, they get out of the RV and they hear like these howls are coming from the trailer where the two horses were.
No.
And it was very weird because the hinges of the tractor trailer were torn off
Wow.
and they were flung 10, 15 yards
Yeah.
from the trailer.
Right.
And so the father goes back, he gets a shotgun, which you were not allowed to bring into this park, by the way. He just
Right.
hid it in the RV somewhere.
Too bad. That's what I
Yeah,
thought.
So he brings out this shotgun, and him and the son advance toward where the horses were, where the hinges were torn off, and they see this something on two legs run out. Can't really distinguish what it is, but it runs out, two legs, and it darts into the woods. It's back into the tree line. It disappears. So now the Robbie says, for whatever reason, I just fired toward the tree line at whatever this was. He goes, I
Mm.
probably it was a hasty move. What am I thinking? This could be a person, But he says, Rob, I don't know what I was thinking. I said, well, whatever. Go on with the story. They get to the back of the trailer, and one of the the horses are buckling and they're making all sorts of sound. They're crazy. I guess they're kind of tied down by a harness or whatever. I don't know exactly. But the one rear quarter, hind quarter of the one of the horses was bleeding.
Mm.
And they get kind of close. They kind of get the horses settled down just a little bit. And there was 3 claw marks, scratches along the quarter where it bled from. Now it wasn't very deep, enough to make it bleed. It did not hit a main artery or vein, so it wasn't
Mhm.
any life threatening, but it was something that clawed it.
Right. With the 3 claws. You
3,
know?
there's 3, just
Yep.
3 marks,
Yep.
right? And so the husband has his phone on him. He decides to call up front the administration, which he's thinking he's not going to get an answer. He leaves some message. And not 10 minutes later, the sheriff pulls up, an administrator, and some other person that didn't have any distinguishable uniform on. One was a sheriff and one was an administrator of the park, and some other unknown third person. And they got out there. It was so weird. The guy was telling me, no answer. They must have heard this message. They immediately showed up within like 10 minutes. And they're back there. They're talking to the son. The wife's back in the RV, the son and the dad. Goes on to explain what happened, explained about the events earlier, the tracks around the RV, this, that, and the other. And then the son says, my son, he's telling me, he says, again, we know about, Bigfoot, but my son says dog man. It's a dog man, a werewolf, whatever. These 3 individuals kind of look at the son, look back at the dad, and says, guys, please don't start a panic. This is, just don't mention that, please. They're like, well, what? I mean, what? I mean, what? Can you explain this? Can you explain the tracks? We'll show you the tracks that are around the RV and on the trail if you like. Take a breath. These officials are telling the dad and the son. Then immediately, hey, listen, we'll pay for all your expenses. If you're, we'll pay for any hospitalization or vet bills for the horse. You can stay here the rest of the week free of charge. We'll pay everything, everything. But do us a favor, please do not mention anything about, don't throw those words out here. And they're like,
Mm.
why would who cares, dog? Yeah, but who cares? They thought it was odd. But these officials,
Yeah.
and one of the officials was very kind of an a-hole. And they
Right.
didn't like this guy. He was kind of a jerk.
Right.
It says, you know what? No, I mean, hey, give us our money. Thank you very much. But, we're taking off in the morning. And then they were very emphatic about telling them, please just don't, you don't know what this was. We can't, you cry wolf, no one will come to the park. One guy said, uh, kind
Right.
of to that.
Right.
I wasn't there, but that's what I'm gathering.
To that effect, yeah.
Yeah, so you guys, they get home, they drive back home. They're not even home 48 hours. There's a knocking on the door. It's that one administrative guy and another official from the park. They show up at this family's doorstep.
Wow.
They invite him in. These 2 officials are kind of nice. Then they get a little gruff. And in the words of the guy that I was speaking with, they didn't threaten us, but they were very stern, saying, do not mention this because you could suffer circumstances.
Mm.
The old man's pissed off. You don't threaten me in my house. He's ready to throw down,
Right.
right?
Sure.
Before he's ready to get irate and start, throwing punches, the sheriff or the park administrator hands him a bag, burlap bag or leather bag, $10,000.
Whoa.
Don't
To,
say a word
to,
about this.
to keep his mouth shut.
Keep his mouth shut.
Yeah.
So I told that story. It's in the book. And let me tell you something. There are people that reached out to me that said that goes on. It's not the first time. It's not the
Yeah.
first couple they've heard that has gotten a payoff for not saying anything, because this Potato Creek Park, everybody in Indiana, has got Dogman on a loose or something. Believe what you want. There's
Right.
something out there, because they're not the first family. It's not a first payoff. It's not the first threats that they've gotten.
All right.
There's something going on, boys.
Sure.
And that's this guy's story. I thought that was fascinating. It's one of the most fascinating I did because of the response that I've gotten over the last year and a half from
Yeah.
people saying, yeah, Rob, that story, that's A1 legit. There's
It's
something there. There is underhanded dealings going on, yet they
sure.
keep the park open. Now, I don't know how prosperous the park is today. Couldn't tell you if people still go there on the continual,
Right.
but you guys and Nick, you know this. This happens in all these parks.
Yeah.
Maybe not the
Oh,
payoff like I got, but these
right.
things are out there roaming the woods, man.
Oh yeah.
But Rob, you know what the moral of the story is? Moral of the story is don't go into a federal park with a RV or a camper,
You know?
because look what happened in the early 1980s.
Oh,
Look what happened to the people here in Indiana.
yep.
And what's the commonality? Dogman doesn't like RVs. They're
Camper,
campers.
RV.
You know, yeah,
Don't do it.
and you're, I mean, hey, as funny as that is, it's not very. You're right though.
There are
Yeah.
other stories of this
Yeah.
where a fellow went with, and this is in Montana. He went with his camper, which was connected to his vehicle, his car, and
Mm-hmm.
he heard howls. Then he heard shaking,
Mm-hmm.
on his, didn't hear, he felt the shaking on his camper that he was sleeping in or trying to sleep.
Yep.
He has a shotgun. I don't know why these people all have shotguns, but he had a shotgun,
Right.
and he goes out and he sees something running and he lets off 3 shots at it, right? And the next morning he goes and investigates the area, and he saw that there was blood right near one of the trees, right where he saw this object. Now, once again, you're not really supposed to shoot at anything that you don't identify,
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
it could be a human, and it
Right.
could
Yeah.
be some moron, I'm going to call him, in
Yeah.
a costume.
It could be, yes.
And
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
going to tell you, at a lot of I mean, I've taken well over 1,000 reports in the time I've been doing this, and I've got a couple of reports where people were in costumes and they were actually shot